Living in Northwest Indiana in Chicagoland channel. I'm Tony Anczer, and we love helping people with their real estate and relocation needs in the Northwest Indiana and Chicagoland area. Today, I got the ultimate presentation, and you're going to want to stop and take notes. There's a lot to take in, especially if you're thinking about moving to the area, because we're going to cover the ultimate guide here. And when in Northwest Indiana, sometimes people get lured in by the cheap taxes and great quality of life here, but you could easily move into the wrong area or area that's not a fit for you. Now, I'm from the area originally, right over the border in Illinois, and then moved to Indiana about 15 years ago, so very familiar with the area. And it could be easy to make a wrong move. Maybe there's a style of life you like, or different access to roads, and it makes a big difference from one town to the other as to what your commute could be or how your neighborhood is a fit for you or not. And so we're going to cover four main topics here. First one is the major roads, and this, determines where you live. And it's where Northwest Indiana is right on the border of the Chicagoland area, and so the traffic impacts from Chicago are pretty significant. And really, in Northwest Indiana, a lot of them are commuters to the Chicagoland area for work and play. So if you need to have access to the roads of the expressways, that could change which towns or areas you want to live in. For me, I live just a couple minutes from 394, which gets us to I-80, 294, that whole corridor, and that's a requirement for what I do. And if you're looking for maybe a little quieter area that's further away from busy roads, then there's different pockets that would attract you more than somebody who's maybe a commuter. And again, how your traffic needs are is really going to play a big factor into where you want to live. And then next on our list will be the best areas to live in Northwest Indiana. So as a licensed real estate agent, I'm not allowed to steer anyone, as the jargon is, to one way or the other, but we can use a website such as niche.com and go through their analysis of providing data for the different areas in Northwest Indiana. What that will really help you do with other stats that we have, like on home sale values and whatnot, this will really help you rule out areas quickly. It may not tell you exactly where you want to be, and I'd be happy to help you out that personally, but from seeing the information from niche.com and home sale values, things of that nature, you'll be able to really hone in as to what kind of an area rings a bell for you, and then we would know where to further drill down in those areas to find the subdivision or maybe house type that fits for you in that type of neighborhood that you're looking for. All right, so then after that, we'll talk about the pros and cons of various areas, because again, there's different, even if we find an area that rings a bell with you, it could make a difference as to one side of the track, so to speak, or the other that's really the best fit for you. Even like I live in Dyer, Indiana, and there are, within a couple miles of each other, there's significantly different type of styles of subdivisions. There's some older ones that are like 800 square foot houses on a slab, and that's one pocket of the town. And then in the other pocket of the town, there's $400,000-$500,000 houses that are 2-story, 3,000 square foot houses with a full basement. That are only a handful of years old. So again, it makes a big difference as to what pocket of town you are. So again, once we hone in on the subdivision or the areas, then we can help you hone in as to where exactly in the town that would be a best fit for you. So then after that, we'll know a bit about where an area of Northwest Indiana might be a fit for you. We'll know the best areas, we'll know the pros and cons, and then we can take a look at the cost of living. And again, this would be, I wish, even though I'm from kind of right over the border, when I moved to Indiana, I wish I knew more about this type of information before we moved, as that would have made a big factor. I don't think we would have moved to our first house that we did had I known about where you buy makes a big difference as to how much appreciation. Two houses could sell in the same day in different subdivisions, and just because of certain factors, house B might appreciate at a faster rate than house A, even though they're the same size. All right, to start off, we're going to get into the roadway networks. And this map here, I know it looks super busy. I'll explain it, and then it will help your eyes adjust as to what we're looking at here. So in Northwest Indiana, we've got my trusty Google Earth pulled up here. And what this is the map of the area. So you can see the towns. So all these red and purple, pink lines, these are just borders of towns. So like here is Whiting, we got East Chicago, we got Hammond here, Gary, Lake Station, Portage, Highland, Munster, Griffith is here, Dyer is here. Schererville, oh, that should be showing over here, is where Schererville is. St. John, Cedar Lake, Crown Point, Maryville, Hobart. A lot of people say Hobart, as I'm told. Valparaiso. And let me pause and I can zoom out to find a couple. All right, I had to readjust the screen. And then we got Lowell further south and DeMott over here. All right, so what's the significance of all this? So, all right, I know this map is super busy and it's kind of zoomed out, but I'm going to leave this on for now just to get perspective. So I want to highlight is some of the main thoroughfare roads here. So here is I-80. I-80, if you want to go west, you're taking I-80 to pretty much anything in Illinois. If you're going like to the Chicago area, you're going to hit on I-80 from if you're in the Hobart area, you're going to hop on I-80 or Highland and Griffith. You would go north to I-80, and then you would pick up. You could go 394 is over here, or you could pick up 294 depending on where your ultimate destination is. And so if you're going, so I-80 is pretty much the connector to, 294, and so Oak Brook's up here, Oak Lawn, all that good stuff. So right now I'm kind of talking about people that need to go to Illinois, and a lot of people in Northwest Indiana do. Or if you're in, say, the Dyer, St. John, Schererville, Cedar Lake, Lowell area, what you'd end up doing is, again, say you would need to get to the Chicago area, you would hop on 394, which is right over here. And then you'd go north to, and if you're going straight to the city, you just continue. 394 becomes 94, and then you go straight up to the city. Or otherwise, you're taking 394 and then going west on I-80 to then pick up 294, or if you need to go to 355, all that. So that's all that direction. Depending if you're further south, you'd get to the point like in Lowell where sometimes it'd be faster just to go straight west through some of the back roads. And then if you're like, going to Joliet or Tinley Park, you could pick up 57 directly. So that's kind of thinking about going to the west area, Chicagoland area, Joliet, Oak Brook, that whole section. So then if you're going east to the Michigan area or even Valparaiso here, so again, I-80 is our thoroughfare, and I-80 gets pretty busy because here, let me pause and zoom out. So yes, I'm zoomed out. I know it's hard to see, but so here's the Illinois border, here's Wisconsin, here's Indiana, here's Michigan. So basically anybody that's traveling east, obviously you can't go through Lake Michigan. So what happens is that everyone ends up getting funneled down to I-80 to go just south of the lake to then continue on either further east or up to Michigan. So anybody traveling from, the south half of Wisconsin or north part of Illinois going to Michigan ends up getting funneled through I-80. Or if you're going further west for semi-traffic, Joliet has a huge intermodal hub. So you're getting people from the East Coast semis coming in, traveling I-80. So again, it gets pretty busy just because that's everything. Lake Michigan bottlenecks a lot of the roadways to hit I-80. I-80 94s, 94 I-80 are the same for a portion there. So you hear 94 I-80, sometimes that's the same one. And then some of the other main thoroughfares through when you're in Northwest Indiana. So here is Route 30. Route 30 is what takes you to Valparaiso. And this gets pretty busy too, because there's a lot of commercial shopping that you'd go in this area to get to Maryville or what have you. So it's people from Valpo going to Maryville, people from the other further west going to Maryville. So Route 30 during rush hour time gets real busy. We got I-65. That is a main feeder. And like, let's say you lived in Crown Point and we're going to Chicago, what you'd end up doing is, here's Crown Point, you'd hop on I-65. And then if you're actually going east or west, you'd hop on I-65. And then you'd go, if you're going east, Michigan, you'd then break off to go 94 that direction. Or if you're headed to the city, you'd be going west to Chicago or wherever other Chicago suburb you are. So anyway, I just wanted to give a heads up of the roadway network there. And these roads aren't very big. So again, this is 94. So they get in, when it's not rush hour, you're A-okay. These roads all move. But when during rush hour, some of these can get really crazy. So it can make a big difference. Like if you wanted to get to, say, from Dyer to Chicago, With no traffic, that's a 30-minute ride. But if you're out here in Cedar Lake, there's no good way to get to a fast road like an expressway. So Cedar Lake, you're looking, you're going to more than double your time, even though you're not moving that much further out. So just keep that in mind as you're, think of the roadway network as you're looking for the town to move to. Also of note is that some of these roadways are toll roads. So I-80 and 294 is a toll road. There was a time where I was had a lot of work traveling to Schiller Park, Illinois, and that was $6 a day going back and forth from Dyer to Schiller Park. I-80 is a toll road. 394 to 94 going north to the city is not a toll road. And I-65 here, this main one from going north, that is not a toll road also. What's kind of neat too is there is I think it's called the Skyway that goes along, that cuts some time off your commute if you want to take this from the city to, say the 65 corridor, but then the toll there is it's like $6 or something like that. So just keep that in mind, as if you wanted to go the freeway, like literally not paying as opposed to the freeway, it's going to add more time. Or if you want to take the Skyway here, it's going to be a pretty expensive toll each way. This 355 is a little further to the west, and that road's new as of a handful of years ago, but that's kind of a pricey one too. You're looking at $3 every time you hop on there. So just keep in mind that there are toll roads, and that depending on your commute, they can add up on a monthly basis. Hey, just taking a quick pause. If you could hit that like button, and if you're enjoying this content, hit the subscribe to be notified of other videos that we put out on a weekly basis. The engagement really helps the algorithm, and it'll do us a solid for putting this video together. So please just hit that like button right now. For those of you that might be Chicago commuters that have a little higher budget, let me just jump to a subdivision. Just wanted to call out real quick, is that in St. John, Indiana here. So again, this is the Illinois-Indiana border. There's this newer subdivision called the Preserve that it's got really good sized lots. And then here, let me jump to the amenities. And you can see on this slide the general amenities and style of the homes. It's built through a wooded area. There's got nice walking trails that go throughout. The houses have very nice architectural requirements, so you're not getting anything cookie cutter. Here's some homes that are available right now. You can see in the area, and so we're looking in the requirements are about at least a 3,000 square foot home, and mostly 3-car garages. You're looking generally in the $700,000 to $800,000 price point, and with that, taxes are usually around $7,000. So if fits your budget, that's a really fun area. And it's fun to drive through and see the houses that are being built, because they're really unique houses. Yeah, so as you can see, traffic and so many other factors make a big difference as to where you might want to live in Northwest Indiana. So again, our contact information is here as shown. Reach out, call, text, or email, and we'd love to sit down with you virtually. We can schedule a Zoom call directly or kick off with a phone call. But again, reach out to us anyway. You can book a call directly on our Zoom calendar, or just text or email, and we'll follow up with you. We'd love to help you figure out what makes the most sense for you. All right, so now we're going to transition into the best areas to live in Northwest Indiana. And again, as a real estate agent, I'm not allowed to steer anybody as to where the best place to live is. So we're going to take a look at niche.com as they break down different areas. If it's large towns, they might break it down into sub-regions. So we're going to take a look at niche.com's rankings of the different areas in Northwest Indiana, and you'll see that there's data behind it as to how it's ranked, or as to house values, crime, employment, and all that good stuff. All right, first up from niche.com for Northwest Indiana in terms of ranking is Munster, Indiana. So again, Munster is right on the 294, the 94, and 394 is a little over here, right off of 94, so great for commuting. And let's see what the niche.com has to say about Munster. So as you can see here, they have mostly objective rankings of how they come up with which town's the best. So the Munster schools are known to be really good. See the A+ schools. Some I've had clients before that have, after investigating schools, depending on being in Lake Central or Munster, that they've decided to move into the Munster School District, so they thought it was a better fit for them. Facilities are really nice. Lake Central is a good school too, but Lake Central is really big, and so sometimes people like a little smaller school. You can see that, I like the synopsis here they give, that it's a Population 23, well, 20, almost 24,000. And they said that it offers residents a sparse suburban feel, and most residents own their own homes. They do. In Munster, there's a lot of restaurants, coffee shops, and parks. Munster does have a lot of parks, like good-sized parks. They got little downtown areas where there's lots of restaurants and things to do. And it says that many young professionals, retirees live in Munster. Yeah, so that it is a nice town. Yeah, I have some other data here talking about home data and whatnot. The thing about Munster is personally that was a being no-go for me is that there's lot sizes aren't very big there. It's an older community. There's very little new construction going on. The town is mostly built out, and the lots, for my life, I grew up in the country, so we've got, I'm on 2/3 of an acre here, and it's a little spaced out. But in Munster, your lots are, for the most sides, they're pretty small, so you're generally on top of your neighbors. And so if you're looking for a little more space, then Munster may not be the best fit for you. All right, number 2 on niche.com's rankings of Northwest Indiana towns is Dyer, Indiana. Again, that's where I live. So in Dyer here, Route 30 runs right through Dyer, which brings you straight out to Maryville, Valparaiso, or you can take 394 to go up. So I do a lot of work in Illinois also, so being right on the border is a huge win for me. I know a lot of people that live right along here, and it's like Prairie Crossings, Prairie Gate subdivision, and it's great because it's just a hop, skip, and a jump right into the highways to get to Illinois. And what's nice too is that in the morning the roads move pretty well. So if you're a 9 to 5er, then the roads can get a little busy by then. But if you're an earlier commuter, then your ride out is usually pretty decent. Here's the deeper dive as to how they came up with the score of Dyer for an A. So you see the public schools are A, you got the housing A-. So Dyer has some pockets of older subdivisions that weren't like planned unit development. So it's kind of like hodgepodge of houses with the building requirements weren't very, standards weren't very high at the time. But then there's still new development. Dyer is growing still, and so you got new pockets of town that are you can get 3,000-4,000 square foot house plus with good sized lots that are space you out. So Dyer offers a lot of whatever you're looking for. The town of Dyer doesn't like their parks. They do have parks. The thing about Dyer is that there isn't really like a downtown to it. So if you're looking for to go down the night for a town, and this is the same for a lot of Northwest Indiana towns, is that a lot of people end up going to Crown Point for like a night out because there actually is a downtown where you can go hang out and just walk the downtown area. So again, we chose Dyer. We like being right on the border, and we've got a good sized yard, and so that's been a great fit for us. All right, number 3 on Niche's rankings is St. John, Indiana. And again, I'm gonna kind of do the same thing each time so you can get perspective. So here's St. John, and again, Chicago's over here. So St. John is a town that it's pretty wide, and so from here on the west side of St. John to the east side, that can make a significant impact into your commute if you're a commuter. Or depending, like if you're somebody that's working further east, you'd probably want to be on the east side, because during rush hour, to get from the west side to the east side or east side to the west side, the road networks aren't built for the capacity, the demand on them right now. So you get a lot of bottlenecks during rush hour. So if you're going to be commuting east, then you probably want to end up on the east side, because that's going to make a significant difference as to how long it takes you to get further east. Or if you're an Illinois commuter, then staying on the west side would be a win for you. St. John has as I recall, they have the second highest median income in the state of Indiana. And so home prices are higher up there too. And actually, I'm going to jump to this slide now about home values, and we'll come back to this a couple times. All right, so this is a slide with lots of data, and I get it can be overwhelming. Let me just walk you through it. And then I have 2 slides here. They're almost going to look identical, but there's a significant difference. So let's just go with this one first. They're both about home prices. So I did a MLS search, and I looked up from January 21 to, so basically a year's worth of data. Or that was 2 years worth of data for median home stats of sold homes. And that was I didn't just see what was selling. I said, hey, if you wanted to buy a 3-bed, 2-bath house, 1,800 to 2,200 square foot how much are those selling for? So in the different towns, you can see how much those sell for. So in Cedar Lake, if you want a 3-bed, I'll just go through a couple and then you'll get the gist of it. So if you wanted a 3-bed, 2-bath house that's at least 1,800 to or up to 2,200 square feet, so those are selling for $350,000 in Cedar Lake. If you wanted to go to the same thing for Chesterton is $285,000, Crown Point $300,000, Dyer $306,000, Hammond $195,000, Hobart $229,000, and you can kind of see where that's going. Highland, Munster, Portage, Schererville, St. John, Lowell. And for most people, that's kind of like what they're starting off with. They're like, we need, at least 3-bed, 2-bath, and then, bigger sometimes, or maybe as a starter home. That way you can kind of see this perspective to put apples to apples. So now this next slide here. Okay, now this slide is a new slide. It looks almost exactly like the other slide. But what this slide is this shows what homes are actually selling for. So the other slide was saying, hey, if you're looking for a 3-bed, 2-bath house, would you expect to pay in each of those towns? So this strips off any sort of 3-bed, 2-baths or anything like that. It just says, hey, what is of all the homes that have sold in all these towns, in all these Northwest Indiana towns, how much are these homes selling for, and what type of house is it? So we're going to take a look here. And we're going to see that the towns here are listed. So here we got, Cedar Lake, we got Chesterton, we got Crown Point, etc. And so the median price, meaning what they're actually selling for, is this column here. And then here's the type of house it is, 3-bed, 2-bath. This shows you what the cost per square foot is of sold, and this was days on market. So this was from January 1 to date, which is actually like a couple weeks ago. So this is all of 2022 and a little bit of it 2023. So again, if you have a certain budget in mind, and usually most people are buying off a payment amount, not so much purchase price is what we usually find. So you can, back out what is a payment amount get you for these different price points. And so again, just to make it crystal clear, so in Cedar Lake, the median house, again, you just look at of all the houses sold, the median house, like what's the typical type of house that's right in the middle, not the cheapest, not the most expensive, what's in the middle. And again, median and average are a little different, but so the median house, Cedar Lake, $346,000, which is a 3-bed, 2-bath. So it's selling for $171 per square foot, and then the days on market. That's kind of information for fun there. So Chesterton is $340,000. That's a 3-bed, 2-bath house. Crown Point, $360,000 for a 3-bed, 2-bath. Dyer here, $335,000. That's for a 3-bed, 2-bath. Hammond, $162,000. 3-bed, 1-bath is the median house. Hobart, just about $200,000. 3-bed, 1-bath is what's the median house there. Highland, $250,000, 3-bed, 1-bath. Munster, $336,000, 3-bed, 2-bath. Portage here, $247,000, 3-bed, 2-bath. Schererville, $371,000, 3-bed, 2-bath. St. John, $460,000. So you'll see that is the highest. So St. John again does have, as mentioned earlier, St. John has the second highest per capita income of all Indiana communities. So in St. John, you see houses that are more expensive, and then usually the building requirements require greater size houses to be built, like larger houses. So that's about $460,000, 4-bed, 2-bath. Lowell looking at $320,000 for a 3-bed, 2-bath. You got Valparaiso, $340,000 for a 3-bed, 2-bath, and again, the price per square foot is all in this column here. So yeah, this will show you kind of what budgets are in the different areas. All right, so now we're looking back at St. John's where we left off before we get into that segue about house values. So here we can see that the limits of St. John, and again, this is Hart Street or Sheffield Avenue. And then over here, here's like 231 and Klein as just a cross street reference. So St. John has lots of different areas of houses. So in St. John, so here's 93rd Avenue right here. And there are areas of existing homes that are a bit on the older side, like original to the community. And then a lot of it is newer housing. So, all right, so the oldest section of St. John is right like in this area here, And so like we're seeing this area kind of along here in Patterson, and then a lot of the rest of it is relatively newer. So this here is the Gates of St. John subdivision, and that's still new developments being built there. We got the Preserve subdivision that we looked at earlier. That's our little higher price point area. Those are very spacious houses. Those are selling for around somewhere around $800,000 now. We got and then this area towns more like in the $500,000 price point. And so there's a bit of variety here. There's still new construction over in this area. We got Silverleaf subdivision, Greystone, a few other subdivisions there. And so yeah, so there's different pockets, and these have different feels. So if you're looking for like a more traditional, older style neighborhood, then you'd be looking in this kind of downtown area. If you're looking for more spacious lots, depending on your budget. All right, and then in St. John, one last item of mention for St. John is that there are two different school districts in St. John. And so the north 2/3, which is, let me switch to white to be easier to see. So about right here is the boundary line of the Lake Central School District. And I think the biggest impact that I see buyers have questions about or preferring one school district to the other is for the high school. So this general north 2/3 goes to Lake Central High School. And that's, as an aside, that's most of the other towns too. If you're north of, I believe it's 93rd, might be a little further south, is the Lake Central School District. And then from south of here actually goes to the Cedar Lake School Districts. So they're both generally, hear people say good things about both. Sometimes people just have a preference over one school district over the other. All right, so now we're on to town number 4, Schererville, Indiana, according to niche.com. So when we see some of the stats about Schererville, and again, we'll get to the Google map here. That's my best friend for tours here. So this is the ratings they give for schools: A, housing B+, good for families A. You can see these. Commute, and again we'll get into all those details. Some stats about 30,000 people. It says median home value about 242,000. I guess one thing to keep in mind about the data I showed earlier is that home prices have appreciated about 10% again, so they add about 10% to all those numbers we've seen earlier. We get to the map, of which we'll jump to here, and now we'll go back to our trusty Google Earth. So we were just looking at St. John last time. And so this is the town boundary for Schererville, right here, this line here. Just for perspective, I'll color in some of these other towns. So this is Dyer here, this is St. John, you got Griffith, and yeah, so Schererville, we're looking at, so Route 30 is the main street that goes through Schererville, and that will take you, further east to Maryville as we go further east, again, west to Dyer. And let me zoom out so we can see these roadways a little better. So yeah, so we got Maryville, Hobart, Highland, Munster. And again, if you sake of travel, if you're in Schererville and you need to go to Chicago, what you're going to do is you'd most likely hop on Route 30 here. You hop on 30, and then you're going to take 394, or depending where you are. If you're far enough to the east, you may, because you can see far enough to the east, depending on time of day, you might just take 41 up to the north to I-80. But a lot of times it would be Route 30 going west, and then you're going to hop on, the same thing, 394 to 94 to get to the city. Or if you're going out to Orland Park or that area, you'd hop on I-80, 294 to I-80, like here's Tinley Park, 294 to go up to the northwest suburbs. So now Schererville, if you're looking to go east, like to Maryville, Route 30 that's your main thoroughfare at pretty much everything. This is Route 30 here to I-65, and then that takes you up to, I-80 and all that good stuff again. So that is Schererville in a nutshell. All right, number 5 on the list is Crown Point, Indiana. Now, one thing about Crown Point that draws a lot of people is that Crown Point is pretty much the only town in the area that has like a downtown that like attracts people. Like you just go out on the town in Crown Point. The other towns in the area doesn't have something like that. Like Dyer doesn't, Schererville doesn't. There's lots of, there's no lack of stores and shopping, but to have like a downtown experience, Crown Point is pretty much the one-stop shop for that. All right, so we've got the niche.com, some of the rankings for Crown Point. You see, schools, they give it an A, jobs B+, cost of living B, and again, cost of living is gonna be pretty similar throughout. Some of the other towns with the lower price points of homes, obviously your payments would be less, so that would factor into your cost of living too. You can see these other stats on crime B, nightlife B-. Weather gonna be the same throughout all of these. So again, this is the border of Crown Point. Crown Point has, the downtown is right here, so this is the core of downtown, and a lot of the town was built out from the downtown area and then went out into all right, so some of the stats about Crown Point, they're saying about 34,000 people. Median home value, again, that the numbers we showed earlier are better than those numbers, more accurate. So, and now we're going to go to Crown Point. All right, Crown Point, here we go, as it developed outward. So that's where the courthouse, there's still a courthouse there. Now it's for historic purposes, and you could have like weddings there and events. They don't actually do like court business there. A lot more people that moved to the area since, so further north on and yeah, so there's Crown Point has, lots of different types of feels of houses. One thing that's cool about this area is that if you wanted to live somewhere where you could have like, walkability would be high, this is the downtown area obviously has, has that for you. Recently what's kind of neat about Crown Point is that they recently built right here is, let me turn on my trusty square. This here is Bulldog Park. And what's cool about that is like it's an outdoor venue that in the summertime or spring and fall they have events there, and they've got like they'll have street vendors there. There's a farmers market. There's in the winter there's ice skating there. They make the under this big pavilion here is they make an ice skating rink, and so it's like fair prices and whatnot. Just the community trying to do things to get involve people. And here is concert pavilion, or if you have outdoor events, that's where bands will set up and things of that sort. We're getting into kind of the same. I won't go into traffic too much because it's kind of the same thing as we've seen some of the others. So when you're in Crown Point, and at this point, if you're looking to go to Chicago, you'd probably most likely hop on 65 to go north, and then like 30 gets pretty crazy during the day, so you'd be looking at like a I-65 to 94, and then doing that whole whole split where you're talking about for the other towns. If you're going further east to Valparaiso, you see it's a pretty clear shot there. There's some back roads you can take, or again 65 is the main thoroughfare. Hop on Route 30 and go east. So again, Crown Point, there's a lot of new development still happening there. As you can see that there's areas that aren't built out yet. As you go further east, especially east of 65, you do get a lot more bang for your buck when it comes to price per square foot of houses. So like, for example, if you bought a house over here, say like a 4-bed, 3-bath or something on the east side of 55, compared to more western areas, you could probably be 100,000 or more less than from one side to the other. So if you're looking to get the most house you can for the money, you'd probably be looking on the east side of 65. But otherwise, there's some pretty expensive houses or subdivisions over here, like Ellendale Farms is if you're looking for like really good sized lots and like premium house builds that are all custom. That'd be Ellendale Farms for you. There's also the White Hawk Country Club over here, and that's one of the premier golf courses in the area. Son took lessons there last year, and it's just fun to. That course is really cool. It's got a lot of. It's not an easy course, but there's a lot of good terrain to it. It's very well kept, so that golf course draws in people from the area. All right, 6 on the list is Highland, Indiana, and so Highland. And we'll get some of the stats here. You're getting familiar with seeing these here. So the schools are given a B+, housing B+, family is A-. The jobs and whatnot are going to be pretty similar all throughout the same area because they're really close. A population of about 24,000. Home value they're saying is 175. This is at least 10% low from current dollars, but again, you can see that's the trend there. So going back to Google Earth, we're going to take a look at Highland. So we were looking at Crown Point, and so now we're going to go northwest to Highland here. So you can see Highland is bordered by Munster to the west. I'm gonna say to the left, depends which way you're looking. To the north is Hammond, to the east is Griffith, to the south is Schererville here. So I'm just gonna zoom out a little bit to get some more perspective on where exactly Highland is. And Highland has more, generally speaking, has more, like compared to Crown Point or Dyer or Munster, Highland has, like, I'd say smaller houses. You're going to see a lot more ranches with either ranch on a slab or ranch with a basement to it. That's not saying the entire town, but you'll see that a lot more, and that's partially indicative of the lower price points on houses, just because they're not as big over there. And then lots are, you can see the lot sizes are pretty tight on each other, as opposed to some of the other towns that have more sprawling subdivisions. So again, Highland, one thing that's nice about Highland for commuters, and the same thing for like Munster and Griffith too, is that it's right off of 94. So I know some people that live in Highland and commute to the city, and when you don't have traffic, if you leave real early or coming off Hours, it's a real easy drive to go up to the city. And I guess for perspective for people not around, we call Chicago the city, in Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana. If you ever hear somebody say the city, they're talking about Chicago. So again, 94 is right here. So we got 94 to 294. 294 goes northwest to the suburbs. 80 goes continuing west. 94 here goes up, directly to the city. We're getting 94 here. And again, so here's where Highland is. Okay, computer's taking a second to catch up. So then we're, cruising east. That gets you to, just further east. We're going to Michigan, etc. All right, so that is Highland. Looking up next on the list is Highland and then Griffith. Griffith comes in at number 7. And Griffith and Highland got a very similar feel to them. I would guess that Highland would have a little bit of a higher price point of homes. So looking through the stats, according to niche.com, you see the stats here for public schools, A-, housing B+, cost of living B+, their highlights here. Crime and safety, C+, so you see this a little lower than the other towns we're looking at so far. We get into, let's see, so we got about population about 16,000. Yeah, real estate value 155. Again, that's probably at least 10% low, probably closer to 20 for all these. And so you're going to see that's one of the lower price points of homes we've seen so far in all these tours. So Griffith does have a bit of a downtown to it, so that's pretty cool. It doesn't, in my experience, it doesn't like draw people as like the Crown Point downtown does, but the Griffith downtown is pretty neat. It's got a neat vibe to it. You can see the railroad here, and that's how, like a lot of towns back in the day, that's how they first developed out, was from commerce along the rail. And just like Highland, it's right off of 94, so it makes a nice easy commute if you need to go to the east or west along any of the major expressways. It's a nice ride there. So that is Griffith. Getting into now, Lakes of Four Seasons is way out. Here we go, right here. I don't have a box around that one, but this is Lake of Four Seasons. What's kind of neat about Lake of Four Seasons is, as you hear, lake, so it's got a lake to it. The lake's not very big. Like Cedar Lake is quite a bit bigger than Lakes of Four Seasons. It is like a golf course community, as you can see the golf course that goes through there. It's a large gated community too, so to get into Lakes of Four Seasons, you probably see the guardhouse right here. So it's all essentially a big gated community. That's a golf course community. Yeah, so you can see, like, to get into any here, like this is the main entrance, and it brings you all the way around. Got some, some people that live there. They really like it because they'll have one of the lakefront properties. And yeah, so there's another, to get in the area here, there's another guardhouse there. So yeah, it's kind of Lake of Four Seasons. All right, number 9 on the list is Winfield. So Winfield is a pretty small town. That's niche.com gives it a B+. You see A+ for schools, B+ for housing, and yeah, so again, the cost of living, that's basically going to be a factor of the home values. So 302, that's almost double we were looking at for Griffith, population about 7,000. And so where is Winfield? Winfield is just northwest of Lakes of Four Seasons, and it's a a relatively smaller town too. So again, you see like the expressways and whatnot are pretty similar to the other ones, so I won't go through all that. All right, when we go, so that was Winfield. Next on the list is 10 is Whiting. So Whiting is right along Lake Michigan. We get the ratings here: C+ for schools, C+ for housing, your outdoor activities. Being by the lake, there is a little more to do out there for outdoor people. Population about 4,500. Home values about 148. Not to be broken record, but that's those are probably 10% low at least. And so Whiting is this little pocket up here next to Hammond in East Chicago. So Whiting is so developed from the oil refineries and from the meatpacking industry back in the day. So Whiting has, you're looking at, you can see how tight these lots are next to each other. So the houses, you'll see a lot of ranch houses on a slab, a ranch with the basement. There are a number of 2 stories and whatnot too, but you'll see a lot more smaller houses with smaller lots. And that's pretty much why the home values are less. You're just getting less on a typical house has this less space to it. So that is Whiting. We're gonna go to Lowell. So Lowell is one of our more southern towns. So coming in at 11, I was kind of surprised to see Lowell being ranked as they put it here. I thought it would have been a little higher. Also Cedar Lake is coming up too, but so Lowell has definitely a lot more of a rural atmosphere. So if you're looking for more of a rural setting, then Lowell could be a good fit for you. So B+ for schools, for housing, cost of living B, outdoor activities, commute C+, yeah, because you're getting pretty far out there. Population about 10,000, real estate values there. And so we're zoom out. Lowell again, so we were looking at St. John, Cedar Lake, Crown Point. So Lowell is way down here, way south down here. I do know somebody, one of my clients bought a house out here and they work in the city. They're a plumber, and so their ride is like an hour 20-ish to get out there, but they love coming, and they say it's worth the drive because they love coming home to the rural experience. So when you're in Lowell, it's kind of like its own island when it comes to like schools and stuff. You're really not leaving this area. For shopping and whatnot you would. It's not, from Lowell to Cedar Lake is only like a 10-minute ride or whatnot, so you're not very far away. But just as it comes to your day-to-day activities, you'd often probably, after work, you wouldn't see leaving your town for anything. There's on there isn't like a downtown area, but there is shopping and all that good stuff along downtown. You got shopping options. Here's the high school. Here's the grocery store area, and so that's off a Commercial Avenue. So this Route 2 is the main thoroughfare road, and so that goes to 41. Somebody who lives in so they live in Lowell and work in Joliet, and it's about an hour ride, but they just take back roads. So they'll take, go straight west to, I think it's 52, and then they'll browse, go over here to Joliet. So, commute's doable if you need to, but just know it's going to be a much longer of a ride. But if you're looking for that rural experience, then Lowell is for you. And there are the older section of town is pretty typical what you'd see for some of the other towns. We're talking about kind of similar things on housing stock. Wasn't in my opinion the nicest built, and smaller lots, but lots of the newer areas, these planned unit developments, you can see they're decent sized lots, and the houses are good size and all that good stuff. So if you're could be a good fit if you're just looking for a little more rural experience. All right, number 12 on the list is Cedar Lake. So Cedar Lake, this is one I was surprised it wasn't higher. Like Cedar Lake's pretty desirable, and the house pricing is it's up there compared to most other towns. So A for public schools. Cedar Lake also has been building a bunch of new schools. They've had so many new people building houses. There's lots of land to build out in Cedar Lake, so there's new subdivisions popping up. B+ for housing, cost of living B. All right, so population of about 14,000. This pricing is out of date here. So we're going to, again, so we were in Lowell, and then we're going to bounce up to Cedar Lake. So from Lowell to Cedar Lake is, you can take various roads, but the main thoroughfare is Route 41, also called Indianapolis Boulevard. So Cedar Lake, you can see, has a good sized lake here, and one of the big draws to Cedar Lake is there is this, you'll see here that says Lighthouse. That's a restaurant, and so that's one of the, if you're looking to go somewhere nice to eat, that's one of the main draws for the area is the Lighthouse restaurant. Now you can do boating here. There's a few different public access points. So there's one right off of the main drag here. I think it's right here. So here's one of the boat launch places. These are some pretty neat condos that were built some like 15 years ago now, but it's pretty neat there if you're looking for a condo with the boat slip. You got that option for you. There's a lot of new subdivisions still being built. Here is Robin's Nest subdivision here, and then more developments are being built out here. So there's a good mix of housing. So if you've got a lower budget or a higher budget, Cedar Lake's got something for you there. So you could buy a house in the 200s, or if you want to go, if you've got budget for something custom on the bigger side, you could spend $500,000-$600,000 in Cedar Lake. So there's a good mix for you there. The schools there are a big draw to people. They like that. And then there's a lot of appreciation in the area because Cedar Lake is drawing more and more people. Yeah, so it's kind of Cedar Lake. And again, I'll zoom out so you can kind of see where traffic goes again. So, 41, if you're headed to the city, meaning Chicago, you could hop on 41 and take a side street to 394, or you take that 41 to 30. If you're on off hours, that could be a fit for you. Otherwise, you'd want to take back roads to get to 394 to go up to the city. If you're going east, you'd want to take a back road to get out to maybe Route 2, 94, or actually 65 would be your option. So you'd Cedar Lake to 65, and then hit to go further east, like to Michigan or what have you. All right, we're getting to the end here. We're gonna hit these next three. We're gonna skip one though, because this one I'm not sure how to pronounce. That one, we're just gonna skip that one. Not a lot of people I know are interested in that one. So we're gonna hit Hobart, Maryville, and Hammond. So Hobart comes in at 13. All right, so Hobart, let's see, schools B, housing B, jobs B minus, cost of living B. Again, Hobart's population about 30,000. Pricing, 164 is out of date, but this gives you a trend compared to the other areas. So Hobart is right here. So Hobart is generally for housing is generally on the smaller side of housing. So that's kind of why you'd see the prices being down as they are. There is a lot of this Lake George in Hobart, which draws people in. As you can see, there's not a lot of houses on it. There's not a lot of options to live on Lake George, but that does draw people into the area. Hobart, you can see, is not bad for commuters too. I know somebody who lives in Hobart, and they do a lot of most of their work is calling on clients, the municipal clients throughout the north, the Illinois region, and so it works for them to be able to hit 94. Again, that can get crazy during rush hour, but depending on work hours are. So that is Hobart. All right, so we got Hobart and then Maryville. So let's take a look at Maryville. So Maryville we were looking at Hobart. Maryville is just to the south. So there's a lot going on in Maryville. So there's a shopping mall, which is actually technically in Hobart, but it's right in this region here. Here's the shopping mall. I don't know if this is true, but I heard some story that the mall used to not be in either town, and then somebody found out that it wasn't in one of the towns, and then they got annexed to Hobart right away or something like that. I didn't fact check that, but I thought that was an interesting story. And so Maryville's got different pockets of town, and there, a lot of the housing stock is kind of on the older side. But there are areas of new development there. So that's kind of Maryville for you. The one thing I find that hit people's radar is the school district on Maryville is that if you like, once you do research, if you like what you see, great. If not, I've seen some people that when they look into school districts that they would find that they want to go a little further south to Crown Point. And also on a note of Crown Point is that the north side of Crown Point actually goes to Maryville school districts. So I've found that to be a deciding factor as to what part of Crown Point somebody wants to move to, or if they want to move to Maryville or one of the surrounding towns, which is based on the school district. All right, going next is Hammond, Indiana. So that'll be the last one we stopped. So Hammond, Indiana was ranked, I think it was, what was that? It was at 15. And Hammond is, we gotta look at the stats for Hammond. So Hammond is, we see school district Public schools C-, housing B-, jobs B-, cost of living B+. We'll see crime and safety C, so we'll see that one take a dip compared to most of the other ones we looked at. Population 77,000. There's a lot of houses there. Again, there's real estate data is out of date, but 107,000. So you see that that's Hammond has housing pricing that's on the lower side compared to everything we looked at. So this is Hammond. Hammond's got the housing in general is pretty stacked on top of each other. I'll just zoom in until you can see its subdivisions look pretty similar, and you'll see that these houses are pretty stacked on top of each other. And again, you're going to see houses on the smaller side, and that's a good reason of why the houses are on the cheaper side. So due to one thing that's kind of interesting is that in this area taxes can be pretty low, and part of it is that there are casinos in some of these areas, so that's a good income offset to these communities that the residents then get benefit from. But again, Hammond is just like Highland, Munster, Griffith. It's a great spot for commuters. The South Hammond, I find a lot of people if they're looking to go into Hammond that they find themselves looking at liking the South Hammond area. They'll find a little bit of a different feel from the north side to the south side. That's just been my experience. And then there's also some areas. There's a college in Hammond, and so that area draws a lot of people because of the commerce that happens from having a college in the area. All right, that concludes our ultimate guide to the best places to live in Northwest Indiana. Please reach out. We'd love to help you. As you can see from this video, there's lots of different areas depending on what type of lifestyle you're looking for, or what kind of events you like, or walkability or nightlife. Really might find a little different area is more of interest to you than others. So again, please give us a call. We love helping out people that are interested in moving to the area. Give us a call, text, or email, and we'll see you on the next one.